and welcome back to the 2 Point Conversion Podcast. I'm your host, Max. Now, sorry for the setup change again. We're doing some more upgrades, but at least we got the light working. Shout out to my sister Annie for getting that light done. Now, today's topic of agenda is what's next for the West Tigers. Now, the West Tigers are like the Bulldogs. They're in a spot of bother, trying to sort out coaching arrangements, which I believe both clubs have now settled on. The Bulldogs, Cameron Ciraldo on a 5-year deal, and the West Tigers, Tim Sheens on a 2-year deal to mentor Benji Marshall, and then he take over on a 3-year deal. Now, for the Tigers, I don't hate that. Bring back old club legends like Benji's obviously one of the best players to ever play in the NRL, let alone the Tigers. And Tim Sheens is obviously their only premiership winning coach since they come into the league. So I think the duo could be nice. Now, the Tigers need to obviously build their roster, and they need to hope that people that they sign, like Isaiah Papali'i, for example, don't pull out. Now, Isaiah's management has apparently come out and said that he's going to honour his deal, but like you signed for the club, so to say that you don't want to go because the coach isn't there, I think's wrong. Sure, that could be a reason why you signed, but at the end of the day, you signed for the club. You didn't sign for the coach. You signed for the club, and it's a business. Things happen. Plenty of players that signed because Ivan Cleary was coaching the Tigers, and then when they joined, he wasn't there. They had Michael Maguire, but they stayed, or some left, but I mean, majority of them stayed, and I think that's the way it should be. But look, the Tigers have some good talents at the moment. Dane Laurie is someone they definitely need to hold on to, and David Nofaluma, whilst he's getting up there in age because he's been around a while, uh, he's still solid for them, and I think adding Isaiah Papali'i to the mix would be good for the Tigers. If they could also sign Angus Crichton, I know the Roosters are talking about maybe letting him go or re-signing him. They're not really sure at the moment. I know he wants to stay in Sydney and at the Roosters, but I mean, if the Tigers could snag him, that's another bag and another W for the Tigers. But honestly, I don't see that happening. But the thing to talk about is the Tigers want to bring back their old guns. Like Luke Brooks isn't firing, so obviously they need to get rid of him or move him on or reserve grade him or put him in a different position, whatever they need to do. But like bring back the juniors is what I say. Now don't worry about Andrew Fafita because he's up there in age and probably could retire soon anyways. But and you're probably not going to bring Josh Adokar back because he's just signed with the Bulldogs and he's enjoying life there. But if you could get Teddy away from the Roosters and well, you've already got Brooks there, but if you could get Teddy away from the Roosters and Moses away from the Eels and back to the Tigers, I think that's a solid start. Now, I get salary cap's a thing, and that's why they all left, because, the Tigers couldn't hold them, but they've got Benji Marshall there as a head coach. They've got Tim Sheens back there as a head coach. Like, I like it. I think that's the route the Tigers need to go, is trying to bring back some juniors. They also need to try and expand their junior base to the Western Suburbs Magpies region of their club, because as far as I'm aware, they really don't use that enough. They stick to the West Tigers area and and Campbelltown and all that, but they really don't go out to the Western Suburb Magpies roots. And from what I hear, they have a pretty good junior base. One of their junior clubs took out one of the lower grade competitions, but I think that's a nest that the Tigers really need to try and get products out of, or you'll see like what's happening to the Bunnies and the Panthers. Their juniors will go elsewhere, and it's not just the Bunnies and the Panthers, but other clubs lose their juniors. I'm just saying them because they've got some of the best juniors in the league. But yeah, I don't know where the Tigers go from here, honestly. I mean, surely they can't get any worse than what they have been. Haven't been in the finals for 9 years now. I feel like the only way is up, but the Tigers brought Jackson Hastings to be that man, to be the ideal player, Super League Player of the Year 2 years in a row. I know the Super League is a lower standard compared to the NRL, but You don't get that award just for, being anybody. And I think Jackson Hastings is the right man, but unfortunately for the Tigers, he's had a couple of injuries this year. But the man that's been good since he come back that they should be trying to build around, I think, is Adam Dewey. And I think the Rabbits made a mistake in letting him go. But at the end of the day, they couldn't afford to keep him, just like a couple of other players, so they got rid of him. And, the Bunnies' loss is the Tigers' gain. But Adam Dewey and Jackson Hastings, I think, should be the halves. I don't know where Luke Brooks goes from here, but that's what I think the halves should be. And I think they've already signed a couple of players that are coming in the Tigers, but I think they need to build around those halves. And I think they'll be better for it. They do have a couple of young guns in the team, like, well, youngins in the team already that are quite decent. Like, I think they could get away with playing them maybe another season. They might miss finals again, but I don't know. At some point, you have to move on because the Tigers have been using their Balmain juniors, and they've just been kind of in a rut. And then trying to get people like James Tarmow, who are towards the end of their career, not necessarily washed, but they're up there in age, and they seem to sign the older people, but they don't get anywhere with it. It's like the Dragons. They sign the older people, and the Dragons have got somewhere with it this year. They're a couple of points outside the 8. I mean, they need to win games to make it, but they're at least in the picture, doing, I guess you say, the Tigers method. But the Tigers doing their own method, it's not working out. And I think Benji and Tim Sheens will really bring that back. Like, they'll change the methods, they'll change everything. They'll really put the Tigers on a step to being that pride of the Magpies and the Tigers that the Magpies and the Tigers once were. And obviously getting back to that Scott Prince era of the West Tigers, 2005 premiership winning. Like, they need to get back there. And I don't know, whether they need to bring back other people at the moment. Like, I think he's still there, but Pat Richards is like the kicking coach at the Rabbits, and he's also one of the junior coaches. Well, as I said, at least he was a couple of years ago. I don't know if he's still there or not, but getting people like him back into the club, getting Scott Prince down from Queensland to make speeches, guest appearance, like, to try and help. I don't know, like, that's things they need to do. I don't know whether they would do it, but, like, I think that's what they have to do. Now, it's unfortunate that they lost players like Luciano Leilua to the Cowboys, but obviously they, didn't. There was a rift, and that was the best solution for both parties, was to move him on. Now they do, they do have some promise. Like, Brent Naden was a signing they made this year or during the year, and he hasn't been bad. And he's decent, got a lot of years left in him. Hopefully, for the Tigers' sake, he can develop into the winger that Penrith never really had. They do have James Roberts, but as we know, James Roberts, he's constantly injured. But I hope, for the sake of Jimmy the Jet, that he can actually get a season out on the field, because he's a good player. We saw that at the Rabbits and the Broncos, but he just, needs to get through without injuries. Now, Isaiah Papali'i is coming to the club, as I said, and, I'm not saying he's a captain straight away, because, the Tigers already have 5 of them, they don't need 6. But he's definitely a man that's going to get there, and he's going to need to lead. Like, regardless of whether he's captain or not, he's going to need to lead from the front, and he's going to need to carry people a lot along the way. Alex Twal's going to be there, and God, man, I hope he gets a try at some point. Longest spell in the NRL, I reckon. But, Alex Twal is one of those silent players. He gets in there, does his job every week, and I know the Tigers don't always win, but, like, his efforts are appreciated every week by a lot of people. And, him and Isaiah Papali'i and other forwards that they have, I think could be a good combination. At least it's a very good place to start for the Tigers. Now, the Tigers will probably miss the 8 this year, but I will say I think the Tigers go alright next year, and I reckon they come close. Maybe making the finals in 8th or just sitting outside in 9 or 10. But, as always, comments in the section below, likes, always appreciated. Anyway, 2 point out.